Welcome to a new video! Today I'm going to share with you my requested to see Pendulum Magician deck profile. I think this is a really cool deck right now because of the fact that we got some really nice cards off the list, which is Double Iris to 2 and Skull Cobra Joker to 1, which making the list a lot more powerful and very cool. Now the extra deck is very expensive still, but you know, the deck overall is a great fun. But before we jump right into the list itself, I'm going to say a few things. The first one is that there might actually be applications on Dawn of Majesty with the two cards, the Soulful Core Link Monster and Pendulum Treasure, which I'm going to talk at the end of the video if you're interested in that. The second thing is that if you're enjoying the video, please consider, hitting the subscribe button if you want to see more, and also give a like to the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what you think. And also, I forgot to mention before this, is that I want to thank all of you for 3,000 subscribers. I'm not really sure what to do for 3,000 subs, if even, because I don't really have the time that much or resources to do something crazy, but I will think about something maybe, and we'll see about that. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video itself. Alright, so starting with the list itself, we're going to start things off with the Magician stuff, with the 3 copies of, obviously, Harmonizing Magician, 3 copies of Wisdom Eye Magician, and then the 3 copies of Dragon Magician, which is my favorite magician out of the old stuff. Now these particular 9 are really important because basically they're your core Pendulum Magicians. In a case of Harmonizing, it's pretty obvious. This one allowing you to summon from the deck when it's Pendulum summoned from hand, cannot be special summoned, or should I say Pendulum summoned from the extra deck, but it's still a very important card. You Pendulum summon this from hand, you get this, you get another Magician directly from the deck. It also have its own restrictions, but the point is it's really good for link summoning, and it's also because it's like a tuner, so you can even like use it for Haki Fibrax, which is really cool. But there's also another application for this card that in this deck works a little bit better in other decks that you play this as an engine, which does sometimes come up, is that if you put this in scale and increase your monster's attack by 100, and defense, of course, by 100 for each magician with different name in your extra deck, and it actually can ramp up in some particular, grindy games, so do keep that in mind that this is a pendulum scale effect that she does have, which is really cool. Wisdom Eye is just your 3 additional copies of everything in your scales, which is very awesome. You get to search for whatever you need. And then Oath is a very important card because it's your main recovery card, which is really important since Master Rule 4, and because of the fact that it's also your way to recover Harmonizing, and it's your main low skill. Now it's also a very cool card that can recover things from the graveyard if you Pendulum summon it, but for the most part, this is your recovery card. And it's the cards that you want to use for low skills for like your almost 100% of the time, so it's really important. But these are the 3 most important Pendulum Magicians. You want to run 3 of each, in my opinion. You want to see them, and also because of the fact that you do run Desire in the list, you want to have these cards and not have a chance of banishing them all, so it's really important to have 3 of all of them. Now, of course, you could have chances to banishing all 3 anyway, but you want to minimize that risk. Then for your other Pendulum Magicians, we're running double copies of Double Iris, double copies of Purple Poison, and then the 1 copy of Dragon Pit. These are really good. Dragon Pit is your main card to deal with back row. You just put it in scale, you basically discard something, and you get to pop back row, which is really cool. It's also another high scale 8. Sometimes I do want the other one, which is Dragon Pulse, because of the low scale, but for the most part, Dragon Pit does its job. Purple Poison is your other scale 1, or it's another way to kind of like, disrupt your opponent when you attack. You increase your monster by 1200 attack, like, the Dark Spellcaster, pop it, pop a card, or also be used with the trap to pop 2 cards instead of 1, which is really cool. And yeah, this card is very annoying, and it's very annoying to your opponent to sometimes to deal with it, because it can be a pop out of nowhere, because a lot of people forget about this effect. And then this card is a very cool card that we have finally back at 2. I'm hoping we'll get it to 3 pretty soon in the next list, because the moment we'll get it to 3, we're definitely going to play this at 3. This is a very important card. It's your main scale 8. It's the cards that you want to pop every single turn if you're able to. It's giving you the advantage of searching the Pendulum Graft, which the Pendulum Grafts are very good cards. So this card needs to be a 2 right now because it's banlist limitations, but I definitely think that this should come back to 3 as soon as possible to give the deck more consistency. Now, of course, this card also got more consistent because of the fact that we did get a second copy back from the list, as well for the fact that Perform Pulse Skull Cobra Joker came back, so you have the ability to search this even more. But for the most part, you play this in scale, and you basically trying to pop it, or you're trying to pop it with your own other cards. And because of the fact that we don't really have Union Carrier anymore, which is banned, but I understand this for the better reason. We also just focusing more on like the Wisdom Eye, Double Iris focus, which is meaning that we run less Pendulum calls, and mostly focusing on making a Tornado Dragon turn 1 and trying to pop this if we're able to search a Pendulum graph, which is really, really important. So you want to run 2 copies of this, of course, obviously. And because of the fact that we also want to pop this as much as possible, it's a very, very important card. I don't know why I'm saying like this is an important card for anybody who played this deck. I think you pretty much understand that this is an important card, but I guess it's kind of like my YouTuber thing coming in. Then for your other Performapal cards, which are like your support engine, we're running 1 Skullcobra Joker, 1 Celestial Magician, and 1 Pendulum Sorcerer. This is your little package that kind of like search itself. Performapal Skullcobra Joker search Pendulum Sorcerer, which can search this, or you can use this to search these 2, and this can search whatever you want to in a later turn, or if you haven't commit normal summon. It's very, very good. It's a very small, cohesive engine. This is a card that you can search with the 3 Duelist Alliance, so I'm not super worried about this card. And also, this card is another copy of this, so while I did want to run an additional copy of this, the more and more I play with it, I realized that, yeah, I just need the 1 because it sometimes gets stuck in my hand. But if you want to, you can run the second one. It's something that you can do, but I feel like 1 is more that you need right now. Regardless, this is a very, very important engine, and it just does a lot of wonders for the deck because if you're able to, basically, how should I say this, search and also pop your own cards, which also works really, really well with obviously this boy right here, Double Iris, which giving you an additional search, which is very, very good. But that does it for those, and then for the additional Pendulum extenders that we have the triple copies of Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser, the triple copies of Chronograph Sorcerer, and then the 1 copy of Time Gazer Magician. This is part of your extender package. This one is either an extender while it's in the scale to pull this from the deck, or it can be extended when you pop your own Wisdom Eyes, which can also pull directly from your hand if you have it. A Pendulum Sorcerer, which then can give you additional more pops or other cards that you need to pull out of your hand. And then Curtain Raiser is just an additional free special summon. Now, a lot of people might say like, oh, you know, you're running 3 copies of this is way too much. I do understand that. If you want to run this card at 2 and then run also my like a 1 copy of Black Fang, you're more than welcome to. But I felt like this card is just like seeing one of your extenders is really, really important. So you want to run, you know, 3 of them at any given time, and that's why I decided to run with this. But that's pretty much does it for those, and this one decided to run out of my hand. And now for the, well, the other part of your deck, which is the effect monsters, which is the 3 copies of Tuning Magician, and then the 1 copy of Artifact Scythe. This is basically your main kind of like, you know, engine of other stuff. This one is actually a really, really important card. It does so much for the deck, not only because of the fact that it summons from Haki Fibrax, but again, it's another extender. The moment that you have 2 Pendulum Magicians in your scales, this becomes live, and even if you draw into it, this could be used as an extender to allow you to go to the Haki Fibrax while you do give up on the other effect that it has, but you are able to bring out this, and essentially, like, you know, bring out the Haki Fibrax, bring out the Appaloosa before you, like, you know, get Nibiru'd, and do all of your plays normally. Now, of course, it does have some conflictions if you have to use it from hand because you're not able to use it again, which then sometimes doesn't trigger your artifact, you know, Dagda to get the Scythe. But, you know, it is what it is, and sometimes that happens. Also, Artifact Scythe, great card. Cards that you do want to side in game 2 and 3, because your opponent is going to be prepared for it. But also one funny thing about this card is that even if you draw into it, you don't really care. You're just going to put it in your spell and trap zone and essentially use this as your, what I like to say, like Tornado Dragon, like, you know, skip on the Dagda, summon Tornado Dragon, sit on the Tornado Dragon, set this, and be fine. So this is a shame that if you have to draw into it, but it's not the end of the world. You can pop it with your own other cards, which is pretty cool. But that's pretty much does it for the monsters. A very, very heavy chunk of monsters, 28 monsters overall. Now we'll move on into the spells. And for the spells, first off, draw spells. 3 copies of Pot of Desires and 1 copy of Upstart Goblin. Pretty self-explanatory. Some people may think that Pot of Desires conflict with the deck, especially with the artifact Scythe in. But like I said before, game 2 and 3, you don't really need Scythe because your opponent probably going to side for it way too much. So you are sometimes like going to side it out, and you are in an advantage if they have to side specific for a card that you don't have. But then like you're not like really conflict with your strategy anymore. So it's kind of like an interesting game of thought there. Secondly, you sometimes don't even need the Scythe. You are able to make with the additional +1 card a lot more plays than you were able to do before. And also the fact that you have free off of almost every single card in your deck. You have multiples. It is a shame if you banish some of your more important cards, but it is what it is. This is the price that you get to pay. Sometimes I do want to run the Allure of Darkness, but I think like the +1 card, like I said, is very, very important. If you want this to be Allure of Darkness, you're more than welcome to. I will not stop you if you feel like this is the better option, but I like Pot of Desires more. And then Upstart Goblin because, you know, 39 deck consistency. And then for your Pendulum related cards, free Duelist Alliance, double Star Pendulum Graft, 1 Pendulum Coal, and then the double copies of the Trap, which is the double copy of, what it called? Time Pendulum Graph. I don't know why I got stuck on that for a second, so that is the last card that you want to run. This is the last related Pendulum cards. Duelist Alliance, obviously, you want to run a 3 because it's absolutely insane. This is basically allowing you to search anything in your deck that have Pendulum in its text, and also, like, you know, count as a Pendulum, because Double Iris is basically a Pendulum, and sorry, I didn't mean in its text, I meant in its name. So Double Iris does mean like it's a Pendulum Dragon, right? So Double Iris is count as a card that you can search because it says that this card is always treated as a Pendulum Dragon card. So basically, you can able to search it, you can search Pendulum Sorcerer, you can search any of these cards. You have options, which is really, really cool. Now, in the case of Pendulum Coal, as I mentioned before, you only need to run 1 because the card does conflict with your strategy, especially now with Wisdom Eye, and because the fact that we don't have Union Carrier. So the card just does lock your scales, which sucks, and it's preventing you from destroying your own Double Iris. So the card is not really that good right now, and it's really, really much a shame. Now, if of course we're going to get other cards that essentially allow us to synergize, maybe we'll get this card to 2 and maybe 3 again, but for now it's just conflict with the strategy way too much. In the case of the 2 spells and the 2 traps, insane cards, these are really awesome. The Trap is absolutely ridiculous. Some people run this at 1, but I think like this is definitely the card that you want to run 2. Your opponent does not expect 2 most of the time, and it's also really good in the grind game. And then the Star Pendulum Graph is also really an insane card because it does protect your monsters from droplets, your spellcaster ones, and it's also the card that you basically want to use for your search capabilities because you do have Wisdom Eyes, you do have Harmonizing, you do have cards that leave the field, so giving the ability to search additional cards every single turn is very, very good. And also for the Desires play, we sometimes need more than 3 names, so I decided to, you know, throw another 4th copy of this, or should I say, like, overall, like, a 2nd copy of this, and then have 4 names, and Desires will banish less cards that are related to that, so that's also kind of important because of that. But that does it for the main deck, and now we'll move on into the extra deck. And for the extra deck, we're going to start with the Xyz first. 1 copy of Time Star, 1 copy of the Supreme King Dark Rebellion, 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 Abyss Dweller, and then the 1 Evil Swarm Nightmare. This is your rank for Toolbox. And it's a very, very important toolbox to know what it does, and it's also really, really important for specific situations. Evil Swarm Nightmare is an absolute beast when it comes to games 2 and 3 most of the time, for me at the very least, when I play tested with this, as well for the fact that it's an absolute beast against the Tri-Brigade and other stuff matchup that are basically reliant on their special summon, because you can just, like, they bring their monsters, they're trying to climb, nope, they cannot climb. Now you flip their monster face down, and they're kind of not able to do anything, or they waste way too much resources, and they're not able to deal with this, which is really, really awesome. So you're able to make them waste their cards, or not able to do anything, which is really cool. Abyss Dweller is dealing with extra deck, or should I say grave decks, which is also very, very important in the format, because you do see Eldritch and stuff like that around. Tornado Dragon is basically your way to destroy your own cards, Artifact Scythe or Double Iris Magician, which allow you to search your Pendulum stuff. And then this card is absolutely ridiculous OTK machine. I love this card. I'm going to play this in any Pendulum decks that's able to play it, because this card is absolutely ridiculous when it comes to just dealing OTKs as your other OTK tool beside access code, which I do proxy, but we'll get to that in a second. And then Time Star, very, very happy to see this card back, finally able to play this in the extra deck because of the, more consistent, playability of the card, because we do have now the additional copy of Double Iris and Perform Pulse Cover Joker, so that's actually kind of cool. But that's pretty much does it for the Xyz. Then for Synchros, we have 3, Savage, FA Dawn Dragster, and obviously the TG Wonder Magician, just like I did in the on the Pendulum Dragon list. Basically, this is the lineup of the Synchros that you want to run. FA Dawn Dragster is a card that you sometimes may able to make with the Time Gazer and your Harmonizing or whatever that you're able to do. So sometimes you're able to do this, or you're level 6 Oath or Chronograph and the level 1 tuning, so that's actually pretty easy to make. Borreload Savage is a card that sometimes you don't make game 1, or should I say turn 1, because of the fact that it does conflict with your entire full back row with the Pendulum Scales and the 3 here that sometimes are like full, so it sometimes does conflict with your stuff, but most of the time it's okay, so don't really worry about it that much. And then TG Wonder Magician is here because sometimes you're not able to go into your plays, but you're still able to make the Haki Fibrax, and your opponent kind of like stopped you, but you're able to make the Haki Fibrax and Dagda, trigger the effect, or like even not trigger the effect and then trigger the effect of the Haki Fibrax during the opponent's turn, and then set immediately the Scythe, and then you summon this immediately, and then it pop your artifact Scythe. And there you go, you got the effect, and you got to lock your opponent. It's a card that you definitely can side up in game 2 and 3, but I still think it's a really cool card to just help you pop back row, so that's kind of cool. And now for the links, we have 7 of these in total. For the links, we have Dagda, the double copies of Haki Fibrax, the 1-2 copies of Selene as well, the 1 copy of Access Code, which unfortunately I have to proxy, and then the 1 copy of Appaloosa. This is pretty much a standard list, or just like, list of link monsters that you have in your extra deck. Appaloosa is pretty awesome, like it's your turn 1 play. And then you have Access Code, which I am allowing myself to proxy because the card is going to get a reprint in the Megatons, which is right around the corner, probably. And then we have the 2 Selenes and the 2 Haki Fibrax, which are really important for your plays. Haki Fibrax, you can get away by running 1, but the more and more I played with it, the more and more I realized I need a second copy more and more, so that's why I decided to run a second copy. And then Dagda is for your artifact stuff. Pretty simple on that lineup. But that's pretty much does it for the extra deck and does it for the deck profile as a whole. So hope you enjoyed this one. I think it's a really cool list. I needed to explain things over and over again because of the fact that it's like, it's been a while since I picked these guys, and it's also have been changed the strategy again because of the fact that we got 2 very awesome cards back, which is really cool. And I hope you enjoyed, and if there's any suggestions that you have in order to make the list better, let me know in the comments down below. But now, let's move on to the Dawn of Majesty applications, because there are 2 cards that came out in Dawn of Majesty that might find a room in this deck, although I'm not 100% sure, so I want to talk about them a little bit before we'll end up the video. So, Dawn of Majesty is going to come out in a week or so, and like I said, there are 2 cards that we might want to talk about here a little bit, because they might go to have applications for the next week with Dawn of Majesty release. Now, I'm going to say this right now, I'm not sure they're going to find a homestay in the deck, but there have some interesting ideas to maybe try out. So I am going to basically give you my ideas as well, pin up in the comments down below, basically my thought about what you want to do at least for the start, and then see how that goes. But basically, they have Pendulum Treasure, which is kind of like the card that lets you to put any card Pendulum monster from your deck into your extra deck, which could have some applications with Oath and other stuff to help you see harmonizing even more, because if you put Oath in Scale and another Magician, and you put Pendulum Treasure, you are able to get harmonizing back to your hand, which is kind of, I guess, good for the Pendulum stuff in terms of, like, getting the Hockey Firebricks before you Link Summon. But the problem is that you are going to waste the oaf way to recycle a card back, so that sometimes could be a problem. So I'm not sure this card will find a home in this list anyway. It's interesting, but I think it's just really problematic because of that. And then we have the Sulfur Core Link Monster, which is basically a very, very downgraded version of Electromite, at least for this deck. For its archetype, it's pretty good, but for us, specifically for Pendulum Magicians, you have to put a card from your hand to your extra deck, and if it's like, you know, an odd scale, you get a even scale directly from your extra deck back, and vice versa. It's really weird, and I don't really think it's going to find a home. But I'm going to say in the comments down below, if you want to play these out and test them out in ADO Pro or any other platform that you play the 2 Pendulum Treasures, cut 2 cards here that you feel like it, play 2 Pendulum Treasures, and also cut one of the extra deck cards and put one of the Sulfur Core Link Monster. Test this out, see how that works for you, and if that works for you, cool. I think they're not going to stay in this deck because I don't think they're really, really good in this deck. But they're still very, very interesting, and they're very interesting cards to maybe test out. I think Pendulum Treasures have a lot more potential than the Sulfur Core Link Monster, but even then, I think it's sometimes a little bit too slow. But that's pretty much does it for my thought for this, and then for the next decks week, or should I say the decks for next week, basically I am going to probably go with Time Thief, specifically because Time Thief has been here for a very long time. I think the longest time out of all of these. So I'm going to do Time Thief again. I think it's about time to do another list for it. And after that, I'm going to give you the choices for what you want to see in a week after that. Because specifically the next week, I think I just want to do something myself because of particular reasons. But that's pretty much does it for that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do. I don't know what happened to my tongue over here. But don't forget to like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. And yeah, pretty much it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.